I wouldn't have stayed in Echo.
Well, I have a good idea of where you would have ended up.
Really?
Because I found this advert on YouTube. It was for Uma.
Oh my god. Okay. You found that stuff. Okay.
Okay, do you guys feel that? Do you feel that's coming to the end here? By the time I release this, I mean, by the time this even gets out, it may have been like past the shutdown at this point. But saving the best till last. This is a big guess. Everybody knows this name, but they don't know the face. They haven't really seen this person. Unless you were at VRML Con 2023, where you would have seen this person right at the end doing their speech, just before the send-off video, which they made themselves. One of the best like creators in the creator scene for VRML on the VRML side, but also most known for their camera work on a production team of VRML. This is like the man towards the end there was really carrying the whole squad, the whole team when it came to production side, specifically cams, the package, everything going on like that. Obviously gives credit where it's due, over gives credit, like all the people around them really making sure that everyone gets their roses around the scene. Incredibly humble and incredibly young. This person's 17, but their work output is someone that's feels like they're a veteran in the industry. So in our niche of VR, it's not particularly VR that they're after, which is unique. Pretty much every other guest I've had is crazy about VR. This person, sure, loves VR, but what they love most is the cinematography and the camera work and the production side of things, looking for inspiration in other esport leagues like Rocket League, mainly Rocket League. There was a couple other examples as well, but they wanted to see what was going on over there, do it even better, but then put it in this niche and do an absolutely massive land grab. Whether they're doing that intentionally, I'm not really sure, but it's what they're doing. It's absolutely the right decision, and the fact that they're so young it's so good for them, and I cannot wait to see where they are in like 5-10 years. Just an absolute like natural gift for cinematography and putting on a show and editing and all that good stuff. This is obviously Wonder T-Man. Let's get into it.
Wonder T-Man,
Hello.
how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for having me.
I like the outfit, the purple flames.
Yeah,
Flames.
I don't even know what I'm wearing. I haven't been on this game in so long.
You're in purple Wonder T-Man flames.
Okay.
Purple's your color, right?
Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah.
It probably was at one point.
Nice. Season 3, VRML. You competed.
Season 3. Yep, that was my first season. I think I played Season 3, Season 4, and Season 5.
Right.
I didn't play Season 6 or Season 7.
I genuinely didn't know that you played.
Yeah, I did way back in the day. I think I maxed out at like number 30 in North America in Diamond,
Yeah.
which isn't like insane or anything, but it's better than I ever thought I would get to.
Fair play. I really thought, because you're very well known for being the cameraman, being like the best
Sure.
cameraman worldwide. Sure.
Yeah. I guess that is who I am now, isn't it? But I mean,
Well, Go on.
I started out. I guess, am I going to tell the story of how I got into this? I guess I might as well.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
So I started out. I played this game. I think Quest Beta. I started about when everyone else started. I haven't been around, I think, as long as some people might assume. But I mean, yeah, Quest Beta. I played it for like a week and then kind of stopped playing it because I kind of got bored of the game. And then I think it was. So this is like during, I guess, COVID year and everything. I was doing like some school like orientation thing where they're like, "Oh, list some facts about yourself. What's your favorite sport?" was one of the questions. And I guess, I mean, like probably a lot of people on this game, I'm not a huge sports person in terms of like real life sports. I'm like, I don't really have an answer for this. I'm just gonna list like, hey, that Echo game I played for a week was kind of cool. I can put that down. And it was like, oh, I can put like a clip of it in here too. So I was like, let me go find some clips of people playing Echo VR. And so then I found the VRML channel. I think it was a Team Gravity versus Vertigo cast by Palador from like season 2. I really want to go back and find that exact game, like the very first match that I ever watched of Echo.
Yeah.
So I found that, I put it in my video, that was that. But I kept watching, like I got on Twitch, because at this point I wasn't even on Twitch. So I got on Twitch, I started watching all the games, like I became a fan. And eventually, like, I wanted to join, so I was like, oh, I'm going to go get to level 50 in Echo. That's my goal. Because you definitely can't join if you're not level 50. That's insane. That was kind of the mindset I had. I mean, I thought this whole thing was way bigger than it was when I first found it. Like, I think a lot of people thought that. Like, a lot of people I see coming in who are like, wow, these casters, they're like huge celebrities and they're like famous. It's really not. Like, it's a whole small, I mean, if you get any amount involved in the community, you notice how small it is. But I mean, I thought it was huge when I joined, so I was like, oh, I need to be level 50 or nobody's going to take me seriously. So I started playing like pubs. I ended up finding, some pub people that were like, oh, let's make a team. And then we started out bronze. I played with, I think actually that team, I didn't even play in a season, because if you remember the break between season 2 and season 3 was like enormous. Like, I don't remember exactly how long it was, but it was like several months, I think. It was probably the longest break between seasons ever. So in that time, I'd like joined a team, formed a team, played like scrims for like a month, and then that team fell apart during an off season. And then I went and joined Wolves. If anyone knows me, that's the team I'm known for, is Wolves.
Right.
I stayed on that team for every single season I played after that. I was never on any other VRML team other than Wolves. So I joined it as a player. I eventually became captain and ran the team myself for a couple seasons. So that was my history as a player.
Yeah.
At some point along the way, I don't remember exactly when, but I started trying to do some of the cam stuff. Like I figured out the Atlas client, which was the thing before Spark. Everyone used Atlas.
Before we go down the rabbit hole of casting, of camera work or production, other than to fill out a form for extracurricular activities for school, why did you keep playing Echo?
Why did I keep playing Echo? Well, eventually,
you said you played for a week, right?
I know, I played for a week. So I guess like once I had a goal in mind, I guess that's kind of what made me stay with it, because I'm kind of the kind of person who doesn't really play a lot of games just for fun. Like I kind of need an objective when I'm playing. I don't play a whole lot of games for fun. I mean, I do play games for fun when I'm playing with friends. Like that's, I think everyone's thing. Other than that, it's like, oh, I play a game, I play through the game until it's completed. Like I like narrative games like that, where you just play a story and have an objective and that's the game.
Yep.
Or if it's like stuff like Rocket League, where you play with friends and not really on your own, or at least that's how I am. Or like Minecraft, I have, servers with friends that you play. Echo eventually became that, but at first it was just, oh, it's this game, you can go play a couple games and then you get bored of it because there's no goal and you don't have any friends. Eventually I made friends and eventually I had a goal. So that's kind of what made me keep playing. But I was at risk of just falling off and becoming just leaving Echo completely until I found that video that eventually made me have a goal. It's funny to think, if I wouldn't have had that assignment and I wouldn't have found the video, like where would I be today? Because I wouldn't have stayed in Echo. Or maybe I would have found my way back in some other way, but...
Well, I have a good idea of where you would have ended up.
Really?
Because I found this advert on YouTube. It was for OK Boomer.
Oh my god. Okay. You found that stuff. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that is what I started doing, was like just YouTube videos,
Well, so do you want to talk about that? Like, what were these videos? Because it seemed like you were going for like a comedy angle for YouTube content.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I started with video producing and just technical stuff in general. Was I wanted to make movies. That was
cool.
That was my thing. Like when I was 10 years old, I watched like Star Wars. I'm like, man, that's really cool. I want to do that. So I think I was like, oh, I really like lightsabers, because, you know, who doesn't like lightsabers? I wanted to make my own videos of like me and my friends fighting with lightsabers, but you know, it can't just be like sticks. It's got to be like have the special effects and everything.
Yeah.
So this was like 10-year-old me. I go on YouTube. I'm like, how to do lightsaber effects for movies. And I found these like Adobe After Effects tutorials. And I go to my parents and I'm like, I want to do this. And they're like, yeah, right, buddy. But my mom happened to work at like a community college. So she happens to have this like free subscription to Adobe. So they were like, oh, why not? We'll set this kid up. He can mess around for a little bit. And then like a couple hours later, I'm like, hey, I've got this lightsaber effect that I did. This 10-year-old just made some lightsaber effect. And I just kind of kept doing the more like effects stuff for a while. I eventually like wrote some of my own kind of short films. I think I made two. I made one which was like a Portal short film, and the other one was like a superhero short film. They were both complete trash because I was like 12.
Is the superhero one, is that the Portal one? Like Portal Gang or something?
Portal Bandits is the Portal fan film. Portal Bandits. It was my like offshoot into the Portal universe, where there's this like crime organization that they steal these plans from Aperture Science, right? They steal the portal gun and they use it to like commit crimes. That was my backstory, at least. I didn't really go into that story at all in the movie because it was like 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
That was kind of my thing. I would write these like elaborate stories and then not be able to shoot it because I had no resources and no time. The superhero one was the one I spent more time on. I think I spent like 3 years on that total, from like first shoot to last shoot was about 3 years. And it was like a 20-minute film. I had to cut like all of it out, all of my story out. But I mean, that's what I wanted to do, man, was movies. I've moved away from that, mostly because of Echo, I think. Was because that's when I got into broadcast, and I like broadcast a lot more.
So let's talk about that transition then. So from someone that wants, I'm assuming like director, you wanted to direct films as opposed to focus specifically on special effects?
I think,
or a bit of everything?
I'm not sure. Like, I liked the whole just do everything. Like, I didn't like writing very much. I probably would never have written movies. Okay. But I liked being on set and filming. I liked doing the special effects the most. And I like directing because everyone's like, oh, that's the big man is the director. But director is a lot of work that's not filmmaking related. Like, they do a lot of, well, I guess that's kind of more producer. I would never have been a producer, but it's a little more of that with director. I think once at kind of like the back half of my movie aspirations, it did become just special effects and like CGI and stuff, which I could kind of still go into that now because I do a decent amount of that, like the digital side. But then eventually it became broadcast with Echo, which we could talk about now.
Well, remind me, you're 17, 18?
17, yeah.
Okay, so are you still, you're not at college yet?
Yeah, no, I'm senior. My senior year of high school is next year, starting in a couple weeks. Yeah, I just turned 17 like a couple weeks ago, end of June.
Do you have plans to go to film school or anything along those lines?
I'm not going to film school. I'm going to, I think, just community college, probably for business, because I've thought about it and I don't think I really need any sort of art school because I've got enough experience doing, I guess mostly VRML would be a lot of where my experience is. And a lot of those fields, like the arts and technical stuff, don't care a whole lot about degrees. I mean, they like if you have a degree, obviously, because everyone likes if you have a degree. But I think I'm going to do that in business because it'd be cool to start my own production business at some point, and it's just kind of a good general degree to have.
Well, I feel like you're in the right place. You're in a good community for that network going forward. Like people like Jeep Girls they're industry veterans. They've been doing this for decades. For sure. And, they could give you a hand with that. Okay, cool. So you mentioned VRML. I
did mention VRML.
Let's go into that. So broadcast, what does that mean to you, and why? What were the early steps for that?
Well, the early steps was, I don't remember exactly what made me start doing just like the spectator side of Echo. I don't know how I found it, but eventually I found like the Atlas client, which would let you make matches from PC and like join the 2D spectator. Once I found that, I started trying to like run the cameras and kind of do my own stream sort of thing. Eventually I messaged Palador and asked for some like advice about, how to run it. I think it was not a whole lot of crazy stuff. It was just, hey, do you have any tips for running the cameras And he gave me some useful stuff at the beginning. And eventually, when I started making my own, like I wanted to be able to stream my own games for my. This was the original team, which was called Team Laser, the one that I never played in the season on.
Right.
I started streaming some of those games. So I was making my own like in-game overlay. And originally what I did was I directly copied the exact design that VRML was using. Like I went in and I kind of took a screenshot and then I like painted out the words so that it would be like blank. And I was like, oh, this is a perfectly normal thing to do and not like intrusive at all. So I messaged Palador and I was like, hey, I did this thing. I stole your design and I recreated it. And he's like, hey, that's really cool, but maybe don't steal our design. He didn't say it exactly like that. He was super cool about it. But I said that, I was like, oh, okay, I'll make my own design. But in that message, he was like, hey, VRML is doing production team applications. You should apply. So I was like, oh, what the heck? This organization is huge. I'm never going to make it. But I might as well apply. Obviously, at that point, I thought the organization was huge. It was, even today, it's pretty small, but back then it was really small. So I applied. I made it in, which was like a huge shock. I was so proud and accomplished. I started doing the cameras for VRML. It was kind of the basic stuff. Like, oh, I downloaded the package, I ran cams. That's about all I did for a while, as I kind of worked on my own streams and did my own like OBS stuff. Because at this point, I didn't even really know OBS at all.
When you were streaming, when you initially went streaming, you literally just wanted to record the matches, or at least stream them. You didn't want to go into casting. You didn't want to do anything like that. It was
casting never interested me a whole lot. Yeah, it was mostly for me just recording my matches. Because even for then, I wasn't doing the cameras either, because I just had to leave it. I couldn't do cameras while I played. And then eventually, like, I got into, because even when I was doing movies, I was never like a huge actor or anything. I acted in the Portal one because I had to, but
I've seen it.
yeah. Any chance I got, I didn't act because I don't like acting. I'm not a huge on-camera person. Even this is a miracle that I'm doing an interview right now. This isn't really my thing, but so yeah, like the technical side was what was really interesting. So I wanted to do cams. I eventually started learning the cams, and I was doing. I did my channel 3 stuff, I did my channel 2 stuff, and eventually I was doing the channel 1 stuff. At this point, So Much for Subtlety was around. I don't know if you were around when he was. Yeah. So he was the big man on cams, and he did great. I never really met him at all, because the weird thing I realized is for camera people, when you're not doing more than just cams, you don't really interact with any of the other camera people. Because it's like, it's either you're in the chat or they're in the chat. You're never really in the chat together.
Yeah.
So this was like, I talked to Subtlety like one time in like one of the meetings.
Yeah.
And then like Newton Dad for a while, I didn't know him because he just did cams and I did cams. I mean, eventually we started kind of working together on stuff, and I met him in like Pittsburgh for the one of the Redshift lands.
Yeah.
So I got to know him a decent amount eventually. But Subtlety, like, he was around. He did all like the Joker matches.
Yeah.
And then he eventually kind of left. I never really found out why, but I mean, people move on. It makes sense. So he left without me ever really getting to meet him, which kind of sucks. But I mean, when he left, it was me and Palador, I guess, were the main camera people still.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you're a caster, you'd rather just cast and not have to run cams at the same time. So when Subtlety was out, I was kind of the one they reached out to do all the, like venues casts and stuff.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. And, well, I'm not sure exactly the timeline. I think Newton Dad might have come in about when Subtlety was leaving. So I think there was never a point when it was, like, I think we always had at least 2 cam people, which is good. I mean, yeah, the timeline's a little fuzzy. I think Newton and I were both around at that point. So it was me and him on cams. It was great. There was a lot more casting going on back then, like, kind of at the end of VRML, it fell off a little bit, the amount of casts that happened. But, I mean, no, it was fun. I'm going to miss doing the VRML casts a lot. I did do some casting, despite not really wanting to, but I did a couple casts. I think it was mainly from a desire to just be able to do streams on my own.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about scheduling. And then I realized I didn't like that very much, so I kind of stopped. Well, no, I think one of the things that happened was me and Ollie, it's me Ollie,
Yeah.
did an EU cast at one point.
Yeah.
And neither of us are super energetic with our casting. So it was an EU cast, it was me and him, and we were both kind of boring. And I think it was a really good game, but I was too busy focusing on casting and also running cams that I couldn't really pay attention to how good the game was.
Yeah.
So I think the game was really good, and we weren't doing it justice. And EU people watching just got so mad, and they started like trash talking us in the chat. And at that point, I was like, "Yeah, no, I don't really need to do casting anymore. I get compliments on my cams. I don't get compliments on my casting, so I'll just stick to cams."
There's a learning curve to casting, but also doing both is not easy. I don't know how Palador does it. I know there's a few other people that can do it as well. Like Retic can do it.
Yeah, I mean, with cams, eventually you get to a point where you don't have to think about cams at all if you do it enough. And at this point, I was at that point. Like, I can kind of just go in and turn my brain off when I cam right now, unless it's something big like finals or the LAN where there's a lot to think about. But with normal weekly matches, I'm like, okay, this whole process for running the stream is down. And then with the actual cameras in my hand, I don't think about anything. Which, it looks better when I do think about it, to be fair. Like, if I focus on the game, I can do cams better. But when I'm not focusing, it's also, it works out. So when I did cast without camming, I could, like, the cams I don't think were a big deal because I was at the point where I didn't have to think about the cams. But yeah, I was inexperienced with casting. I never spent a whole lot of time doing it. So I mean, I'm sure if I put in the work, I could be fine, but that's not my
when you
interest.
started doing, when you said you started streaming, but you were still playing, so you would set everything up and then you'd put the headset on and you'd go play yourself. How comes you went from that, which is literally just having a stream playing with some nice, UI, to then actually having a game control in your hand and flying around the arena and like follow cam point of view? Like, what was there something else? Like, did you start doing it and you were like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. I really enjoyed the cinematic.
Yeah, there was a little bit of that where I did some of the cinematic stuff and I liked it.
Yeah.
Like, I liked being able to be like, oh, I can make the camera super smooth and stuff. Which in the beginning it wasn't super smooth because it's a huge learning curve to doing cams as well. Oh, eventually, I don't remember who exactly it was. I should really have figured out their name for this interview, but this was between season 2 and season 3 in that big gap again, I think. There was somebody organized this like 2v2 or 3v3, a 3v3 tournament, just like outside of VRML, and they were like, they reached out to me. I don't remember why they reached out to me. I think it was a smaller thing, like somebody knew that I did cams kind of in my free time.
Right.
And then they kind of just recommended my name. So they asked me if I wanted to like stream the game just on like my own Twitch, just so they could have coverage.
This was before VRML.
This was before VRML. Okay. Yeah, because I remember I used these casts in my application for VRML.
Cool.
So I did that. So I went way overboard with this thing. Like, I designed like a whole stream package for it, and then I was like, I spent basically the whole weekend, like, I think I did actually cast on this one too. I did cams and casting. And I think Solar P, if you know Solar P, he also casted with me. Yeah, he's stuck around. He was one of the first people I met in the community. Because there was one other team I was on. After Team Laser, which was my failed team, I joined another team, which was Solar P and a couple other people who I'm not sure are around anymore. But I joined that team and it immediately fell apart. Like, it was kind of funny how it seemed like the moment I joined, everyone else left. I know it wasn't my fault, I think. So that team, I joined it and then it fell apart. And then I went and joined Wolves, I think. But so Solar P I met on that team. He was into casting. I mean, he became a VRML caster eventually. He casted with VRML for a while. But originally it was me and him on this 3v3 tournament. And we casted it. We did not a very good job. But I mean, we covered the games. It was fine. But that was like my first like forte into, doing tournaments and stuff, like what I ended up doing a whole lot with VRML.
Did you keep doing it because there wasn't many other people that could do it well, or did you do it because you enjoyed it more than playing, or at least as much? Doing
Yeah, I
camps?
mean, there were plenty of people doing it well. I think that was definitely not part of it, was thinking that I could be better, because I definitely didn't think that at the time. I never thought I would become anything like of note in the cams community, but I enjoyed it. Eventually, like, I don't really play this game. Like, for me, like, I played it for a while. It was fun while I played it, and then I definitely like the casting and the creation like way more than I like playing. Like, I haven't been on the game since I would say since VRMLCon, but I wasn't on at VRMLCon or before VRMLCon either. So I don't know the last time I just played the game. So casting is where I had fun. Playing, I had fun while I was on teams, and eventually it was, because I was captaining all the teams I was on, it was a lot of work, especially to do alongside the casting.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So you just kept casting. Did you take any breaks along the way, or were you pretty continuous once you started?
I don't think I took any breaks. I mean, during the off seasons, obviously, is a break,
Yeah.
but there wasn't really a point where I stopped casting when there were casts available. Like, there was times where I kind of went at it less hard, and there were times when I'm like, oh, I need to get all these casts in. Like, for a while, I had a goal I was going to do 10 games a week, which I think I kept up for the entirety of season 4. Season 4 maybe, but I mean, yeah, I think I might have done that goal for 2 seasons in a row. But yeah, I mean, casting is definitely where I put most of my time, if not. I mean, yeah, I mean, at the beginning it was casting, later it became more creator stuff, and that's kind of where I'm at right now,
Yeah.
since there's no more casting happening.
Yeah. It's true. Okay, because it sounds like you started with the more creative stuff, talking about like the special effects that you were doing, and then
Yeah, I
you've
guess technically.
transitioned into more camera
Right.
angles, cinematics.
Yeah, I was doing, I guess, yeah, when I was doing movies and stuff, that would have been more what creators would do.
Yeah.
And then I eventually became a caster, and I did only casting until about season 5. I know exactly, there was one project I did that made me start doing creator stuff for VRML. It was one of the finals. I was like, oh, I have this idea for a cool like stinger transition that we can use. So it was this animation of like all the team logos, and the camera would like fly through the team logos and then land on like the VRML logo.
Okay.
And I did that, and we used it during one of the finals.
Okay.
And that was like the first thing. I think I did that. Oh yeah, that was a way bigger deal than it should have been. But I did that, and I think some of the people like Palador and stuff, they saw that I was going to start doing creator stuff, and that I did a good job with it. So I think that might have been why I became a production lead. That might have been why I was offered the position, which is pretty cool. And then once I became a production lead, it was more for the creator stuff and less for the cams, because Newton Dad was a lead for cams. Like, that was his role. I became a creator. I think this is when Sphinx, because he eventually left being a creator lead. He was a lead before me. I think I took his place. This is back when I didn't know him at all. I guess I should probably talk
Did
about
Sphinx take a? Yeah. Well, I was actually interested when he would come up, because I know that you have a great like working. Would you call it a working relationship? Like
For sure,
you're a team in terms of the production, at least towards the end here.
Yeah, it was
like, how did
definitely
that-
towards the end thing. Like, at the beginning, beginning I didn't know him at all.
Right.
So he was someone I met later, and I'm super glad I met him. He's probably the most influential person I've met in all of Echo. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I cannot thank him. I don't know if he's watching, but if you're watching,
Of course.
thank you for everything you've done. But yeah, so I met him and some of the other creators. One of the projects I did after that little final stinger was I met Yasai, who I know you know.
Yeah.
And Yasai was doing an intro project. I mean, everyone knows the intro, the VRML intro.
Yeah.
That was Yasai's idea originally. And then me, Sphinx, Lols from NA, who is also amazing, and Dan 3D IM, which I know a lot of people don't know as well, but he's also awesome. An awesome creator. So us 5 kind of hopped on that project. It was still mostly Yasai. Like Yasai was doing the 3D work. We were all kind of just giving, advice. Oh, we also the posters. The posters were me and Walls' thing. Like we did all those fancy posters in there.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of the project. Yasai did all the 3D work. Sphinx was kind of like overseeing it. And that project went amazing. Like we all really enjoyed that intro project, and we were all eager to jump on something else. I don't remember exactly what the next project was. It might have just been finals that season.
Was it season 6? 5?
It would have been 5. 5 was the first season we really that creator team went hard in finals, which is something we ended up continuing to do. Was we made like the big events like finals our main focus.
Was season 5 finals 2022 October, November?
That would have been 6.
That was
so
6.
Season
okay.
5 would have been, I guess, probably June 2022.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I don't remember exactly. Oh, it was July, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I know Season 6 was the big finals. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, 100%.
In a little bit. That was our huge project. But Season 5 was the first time we did like. Well, I mean, we've always done the interviews. I think Retep really started those interviews.
Yeah, and he's incredible.
He does great. Yeah, Retep's the big interview guy. He was the first one to discover like the reshade stuff, I think. Well, yes. I mean, I don't know about discover reshade, but he was the first one to use reshade in the interviews.
He recommended it to me ages ago about the interview as well. Like
he did the backgrounds. He did the blurred backgrounds with the logo in the background, which was amazing for those first interviews. I don't know if we've even surpassed those interviews ever. Like, mainly because of like time. Like, we couldn't always invest as much time as he did in those. But those interviews were great. So we did those for like Challenger Cups and finals pretty much every single time until after he did it. But then this time, the Season 5 finals was the first time we did like more player content. Like, it was the first time we did the poses, the portraits, I think is what we call them. So we went in with the players. Also because of Retep discovering reshade, we were able to do a green screen in game. So we would have them stand in front of a green screen and do like their pose. I think the first time we had them all like cross their arms, and then it would we'd do like, it would show the roster, like the players would pop up with their crossed arms. It would show their in-game banner behind them, and it would show like their name, and it would be kind of like a cool animation. And then we also we designed posters for all the teams, which was an insane amount of work, and we used those in like the intros. So that was that finals. The format didn't really change at all because of that. It was just some cool spice on, the casting package.
Yeah.
And we all had so much fun with that. Like, that went great. We wanted to continue it. So obviously the next step from doing a little bit of spice in the casting was completely change the entire format and make a whole super fancy show for Season 6 was where we stepped it up to.
Quick question, because I don't want to interrupt your flow too much, because I'm really enjoying the way you're taking us through the seasons. But when did Venue's contract start with VRML? Because I imagine that must have had an effect on how like professional you guys wanted to keep it.
Yeah. So I can't speak exactly to that because Venues was around before I was around. They were doing Venues. Wow. They were doing Venues in Season 2. I think Season 2 is when Venues started.
Right.
So that was like, they had the contract for Season 2. That contract got renewed for Season 3, 4, and 5, I think. But I wasn't terribly involved with Venues until I really needed to be. I think it might have been when Subtlety left. It was me and Newton doing Venues. Like, he would do NA, I would do EU on cams.
Yeah.
So that's when I started kind of doing Venues. We didn't really change a whole lot for the venue shows. Like, there was more emphasis on professionalism, but other than that, it was the same sort of stream. Like, it was the same package, the same graphics and everything. But I mean, it was definitely a big deal for VRML. Like, it was, I mean, I don't know how much I can talk about it, but it was a big step for the company and being able to kind of expand.
Yeah, 100%. To have that kind of like professional
for sure. Yeah.
tie.
I mean, not a lot of people watched in Venues. Like, I don't know how many people. I mean, at least within kind of the Echo community, I know everyone was still kind of on Twitch.
Yeah.
Like, the going into a stadium and watching it on a TV is not really for everyone. I mean, it's very different than like what Vertex was doing, which is go into a stadium and actually like it adds a lot of value to do Vertex. But with venues, all you really get is you're in a room full of like screaming people and watching the same thing you would have watched on Twitch. So I mean, I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of the venues.
That
like,
is a good
model.
point. 'Cause Vertex, you're joining, or because it's all like closed beta, or yeah, it's all closed beta Vertex, or as far as I'm aware. It's when you go into it, it's all Echo people that are there, so it's a bit more of a community thing. But with venues, like the 99% of the people walking in there are they fell in. They're random people that put a headset on 5 minutes ago.
Right. It's like it shows up in your. I mean, I don't know if Echo showed up a whole lot in the people's Oculus feeds, but it was like, oh, go on venues, and it was like, oh, I guess I'll go on venues. It has like the NBA, and then they walk in and they see this Echo one, I guess, and walk in. But yeah, no, I heard a lot of complaints about venues. Like people didn't like it because it was just a bunch of random people. Like it would have been cool to make your own rooms. Which ultimate shout out. VRML's working with X Stadium. You can go watch VRML on X Stadium, which is basically kind of the evolution of venues. It's like venues, but you can make your own private rooms. That's the main difference. And there's a little more fancy stuff. So
yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, we could market it better. That's a good point. We'll look into that. But
is this a VRML like spin-off company, or is this a completely different entity?
No, I think it's another pillaged by Meta. You know, they own this whole. I mean, you know, Meta. They buy everything for no reason, but.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a smaller, like it's not like Meta. I mean, venues was like Oculus venues, like that was they made the whole platform, I think. But I mean, X Stadium is still kind of away from venues or from Meta enough that they have their control. Who knows how long that'll last? I don't know a whole lot about it, to be honest, but I mean, if you're interested in like the venues sort of thing, like X Stadium is where it'll be in the future, with some upgrades like being able to be in a private room and invite just your friends and not have to have everybody in the same room.
You enjoy that that viewing experience. You seem positive about Vertex and what they're doing over there. This new X.
I like Vertex a lot.
Yeah.
I don't like venues a whole lot. Like I think venues is cool, but it doesn't really add any value. Like I mean, I guess the value of being able to have your friends in VR is cool, but you can also just join a Discord call and watch finals. Yeah. That's what I prefer doing. Like, I don't see the reason to really go in venues, but I know some people like it, so it's a cool thing to have. But Vertex, I like the first time I went into Vertex and I saw I didn't have super high expectations because I didn't know how much work they were putting into it. But when I walked into that lobby was incredible. Like they've done such a good job with that. And then when you go into the stadium, it's a whole nother level. Like that's insane. And it's really, really sad that we never got to see it fully, come to fruition for Echo. But I think they're still working, and I'd really like to see. I mean, Rocket League is one I'd really like to see in Vertex if they can get a deal with RLCS at some point to do like the Rocket League finals or something in Vertex. Because it's a similar game. Like you can see the whole stadium in front of you. You can see like the cars flipping around, and then you see like the stream on the screen. I think it'd be perfect. But yeah, like that's the value I see in Vertex is they've got the whole stadium. Like that's the value that Vertex adds.
Yeah.
That like the venues and stuff doesn't add on its own.
Cool. You were saying about season 5 finals, stepping up the creative side of things, starting those projects to improve that, and then you were going to go on to talk about season 6.
Yes, season 6 is where that was a big change for the creator team, I think. Well, I don't know about a change, but it was a big step in what we were doing. Because ultimately, like that led to VRMLCon, but we'll get to VRMLCon at the end, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that was the end. But so yeah, season 6 finals, we had these huge dreams. I mean, I guess I can preface by saying the whole creator team, basically, we've got our own kind of separate thing. We call ourselves Reverb Media. Okay. Yes, I might have told you about that. I don't know, but
I think he was telling me, but it was like in a secret way. I'm working on this thing. I can't tell you too much about it. So I think that's what.
I don't think we're being super secret with it. there's really no reason to. But we've got our own kind of separate. We haven't done a whole lot. We've done a couple like contract jobs with Reverb, but it's more like that's the team. It's me, Yasai, Sphinx, Lulz, and Dan is the Reverb team.
Cool.
But like, yeah, we did. I don't remember all the jobs we did, but we did a couple things outside of VRML. But it's mostly VRML.
Yeah.
It's mostly just the VRML creator team.
Yeah.
We got our own because we're cool like that. I don't know. But yeah, like we're all Rocket League fans. You'll probably, I mean, I've mentioned Rocket League a bunch. Like we watch Rocket League. That's our big inspiration. Is what they do. Like, naturally. I don't know if have you seen what the Rocket League does with their LANs?
I haven't seen the LANs. I've seen the streams, and my opinion is that VRML is so much better.
Really?
For streaming. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, their streams. I like to think we match their level with streams, at least pretty close. Like, obviously, like they've got a little bit bigger team. They've got some more stuff they can do with the game, with being, like partnered with the developers. Like that always makes a big difference. But their LANs are like a whole nother level. Like I really want to go to one at one point if there's ever one near me. But they do like, I mean, there's only a couple esports organizations that have as much money as they do. But like they rent out the whole like arena, like a basketball arena. They've got the whole stage. But Rocket League does the best job with production at those events. I mean, League of Legends fans might come say League of Legends is better. I don't care. League of Legends isn't something I watch. I've looked at a couple of their streams. They do pretty good too. But Rocket League has way more hype, in my opinion, than LoL does, which is the most important part. The game itself is more interesting. But that's obviously, this is opinion stuff. But they do an amazing job with like the lighting and all the like effects that they do. And a lot of the stuff we've done is kind of directly inspired by that. So like for season 6, our big thing was we're going to do custom Echo chassis for the teams. Yes. Like that was the big thing we did in season 6, which I guess I can talk about now, because what are they going to do? Ban me from the game that is already getting shut down? But I mean, yeah, no, we ripped models. I'd been working on doing the ripped models for like a year at that point. So we had our models that we were working on and rigging and all that, which is against terms of service, but is a worthy cause in my opinion. So yeah, and I think, I mean, the skins were surprisingly easy. I think Lulz designed most of those. He did a great job. He was just kind of painting on, the image texture of the player. Yeah. To be, the fancy team. And then Yasai designed the whole like room that they were spinning around in. And then I did like the screen graphics, and Sphinx, made it all work in Unreal Engine. Sphinx and Dan did that. So that was one of the big things, was me and Yasai and Lulz and Sphinx to an extent are all like Blender users. Like we're all pretty good at Blender. But Blender, to render that would have been insane, because Blender's render engine takes like minutes per frame. Unless you use their newer one, which is getting better, but at the time it was a little bit hard to make look good. So we used Unreal Engine so that the rendering could be faster, and it was insanely fast. Like it wasn't real time, but it was pretty darn close to real time, because we had to do like the intro graphic, the intermission graphic, which is a 2-minute long loop, and like the win graphics and the champion graphics for all teams, which, yes, there was a champion graphic for every team that played in season 6. We can't release any of the ones that didn't win, because that would be bad. I mean, maybe we'll show them at some point, but yeah, so there was all those that we had to render. Sphinx did a really good job building out like that. The production package for the season 6 finals was insane. Like the amount of custom code he had to do to make, like, in my opinion, the best part about those packages was the intro sequence. Like, I don't know if you remember that, but we would go from the casters, it would play this music, it would do like the spins, it would spin showing both the teams, and then it would cut to like a cinematic of the arena with
that was season 6, right? And I loved that. The hype that would generate as the music comes in while the casters are still speaking. Oh,
I am so proud of that. That's like, I mean, we did the same thing at LAN, so yes, I guess I can say that thing is the thing I'm most proud of with our streams. Yeah, because it did get used for both season 6 and LAN. But in season 6, the system that Sphinx built for that, it was one button. You would press start game, and that would go. It would cue the music.
Yep.
It would cut to the spins. It would ready up the teams in game, and cut to the game all in perfect time. Like I had to do nothing for that.
Wow.
Like that work he did on that was insane. Like it looked way more complicated. I mean, I'm sure it was incredibly complicated to build, but to run it, I pressed one button and it would start the game and put me in and everything. Like that was crazy. Like Sphinx is a genius. Like he's one of those geniuses that we've got in the community. But yeah, so there was that. There was the intermissions. I'm also really happy with because that was our chance to show off the actual chassis because they were just like spinning around on the intermissions. And that whole concept for like we call it the echo chamber. That's our name for it.
Okay.
The whole like chassis and everything. That was kind of directly copied from Rocket League because they do the same thing. Like they've got their cars with the custom team, bodies for the cars, and they do the same kind of like spin around for the intermissions. They do like the intro sequence where they show both of the cars, and they do the same. Like it's if you know both of the shows, you can be like, wow, that's like the same thing. I think somebody at LAN pointed out like, hey, this is the same thing, which it's not bad, like because Rocket League does a great job.
I think you're being overly humble because I think it works really well because in the social lobby for Echo, we have that area where you select your chassis, and it is circular like that. And that's what it feels like. It
was inspired a bit from that. I mean, you'd have to talk to Yasai a little more about that because that was her design, but it was definitely Echo inspired, and I think it worked well for I mean, it looked like Echo. It was great. And then I mean, it's not, if you're copying something good, then it's okay to copy because it is also good.
As long as you do it in your own way, right? It's because it's very much an Echo.
Yeah, we didn't steal their work at all. Like they actually have the Unreal project for their like whole Rocket League thing posted online. Like that's open source. You can download that and use it for your own Rocket League streams if you want to. But we didn't. We might have looked at it for like inspiration a little bit, but we did it completely different because the main difference was their screens are not designed like they're not a video file. Like it's kind of, they render like all the graphics in game, so there's not really much you can do. Or not in game, but in Unreal Engine in the render. So there's not a whole lot you can do, which is good for like making it more dynamic. But we exported all of our graphics on the screens like ahead of time as video files. So technically, it was a pretty different thing. And like we built it all from like I don't feel bad for copying it because it was it worked out well. It was good. And then I mean I was worried we'd only get to use it during those finals, but we used it again at LAN for all 3 games, so I'm happy with it.
For you used it for Blast and Ultimix too, but I wanted to, before we move on, point out that sequence, like alone, I think that has such a positive impact, particularly on the EU community, because for season 6 on the EU side, that was a real rocky season.
Oh,
there was a lot of unhappy players for other reasons that like is nothing to do with what we're talking about here. But I feel that it really like brought the EU community back. Like literally just that the hype generated from that sequence, and like I guess like the respect it shows to those teams, like having the chassis built like that and having that epic sequence.
And that's another thing I'm incredibly proud of is we didn't just do it for NA. We didn't just do it for EU, but we also got OCE in there as well. Like we did, I don't remember how many teams it was. Let's see, it would have been 10 teams for NA, 8 teams for EU, and 6 for OCE.
Yeah.
So it was over 20 teams that we did that for.
Yeah.
So that alone, like, that was a lot of work on Lulz because he did all the designs for the chassis, and he also, like, I built the template for our screen stuff, but he went in and he actually exported it and put it all together. So Lulz did so much work on that. I mean, we all did a lot of work on those finals, but it was big. And then, I mean, the show itself also changed a lot. Like, we did the whole analyst desk thing, which I think worked out extremely well for the flow. Like, some people might have thought it was boring, but I hope not. I know, so people don't watch the streams to watch people talk. I know it's esports, you want to watch people play, but I think the talking and the analysis is a big deal. It's a big part of it. So I think that was mostly me and Sphinx's idea, was to do the run of show like that, where we'd do, a 20-minute pre-show where you had 4 casters on one scene,
Yep.
And then it would go to like a little intermission, and then they'd come back, and it would be a little pre-show with separate hosts, and then it would cut to the casters, who are separate people from the people who talked before. And then the casters would stick around to do their mid-game analysis, and then you'd come back on separate hosts. Because if you have the same people talking the whole time, your analysis gets stale, right? Because it's how much can you say as casters about,
It also adds variety. It makes it feel more professional. It's like way more people are involved in what's going on.
Right. Like there were so many casters involved in that. I mean, the hosts thing, like if there was one of the few things I would have changed about LAN is being able to do the separate host desk thing, but it was more just a technical and space limitation there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the season 6 finals, I'm never gonna stop rewatching those, because those, I would say they went perfectly. Like there was a couple things that went wrong here and there. Like day 1 OCE completely failed. Like we tried to get our brand new stream package, which we'd finished like the day before, and we tried to get me and Dimwee both running it. Dimwee had no idea what we were doing, and we tried to force him into this brand new package, which was unfair to him, and that ended up, we weren't able to work it out in time. So OCE just didn't really get casted the day 1, or I think it got taken by community casters, which I think they were happy with. They got an opportunity to cast VRML finals, which was cool. And then we came back the next day and had all the chesses and everything, and it was great.
Out of interest, who were those? Who were the OCE community casters? Was this like Punda, Real Zeros?
I have no idea, honestly. Like I should know this, but I don't. But you should watch it back, because I'm sure it was great. But yeah, like, awesome. I mean, in my defense, we had to work out a lot of technical bugs, so I didn't get a chance to watch it. But I'm sure it was great. Like I mean, I always have loved OCE. Like
you always do the cams for OCE as well, right? For season 7,
I do a lot of cams for OCE.
You stayed up with me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that might have been. Was that the last match of the season that you? Because I've always had this tradition where I would cam the very last regular season match.
No,
which was always
finals.
OCE, right? Okay, finals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did all the cams for finals for OCE, but I would do occasional like regular weekly matches for OCE, and I would always do the last match of the season. Yeah. Which I did the last 3 or 4 seasons, I think. Which is always, it's like 2 a.m. or something ridiculous. Yeah. But it's worth it. I like doing it, and OCE has always been. Like, I love how appreciative they always are. Like, when I was doing the actual casting, like, they were the ones who I liked casting for the most, because they would always, like, they always loved it. It was just fun. Like, I get to stay up, I get to cast kind of alone, and it's a good time. And then seeing their appreciation for, all the chassis and stuff that we did, it was great. Like, I love OCE.
So, end of season 6 finals, right at the end, on the NA stream, they announce VRMLCon.
Oh yeah, that was in that stream too, wasn't it?
It was.
Oh man, yeah, I forget how good this stream was, but yeah, that's also a moment I'm never gonna stop rewatching. That announcement video was also made by me. I made that like a week less. It was a couple days out. Like, I'm shocked that it turned out as well as it did, because I was so busy getting everything ready for that stream that I kind of just pushed that announcement video back as far as I could, and I'm like, oh crap, I need to make this video in like a day now. Yeah. And I'm happy with what it turned out to be, and I think it was very hype. I really wish I could have been a viewer who didn't know about the LAN watching that announcement, because I think I heard from like lols and people who watched it in like a party chat while it was live, that like the moment, because
so like they didn't even know. People in the creative team didn't even know.
No, it was the people who were hosting, and like a couple casters, I think, were the only people who knew it. Like, I knew it, the rest of like the LAN team knew it, obviously, and then like Jeep Girls, Psychotic, Offbeat, Dimwee, like the hosts, Palador, because they had to talk about it. Yeah. But other than that, like, no, there were casters who didn't know, there were creators who didn't know. I heard rumors about a leak, but I don't think the leak was very big. But yeah, I mean, I think I did a good job just dragging the moment out. long enough. Like, I'm happy with how, like, it did that whole hype video. The video itself doesn't really have anything to do with the LAN. It's just a cool echo video.
Yeah.
And then it's like Season 6 NA Finals or Season 7 NA Finals. And then it's like the Denver reveal it's drawn out. Which, it sucks that that video will forever be inaccurate because it says it was going to be the Season 7 Finals and it ended up changing because of the game shutdown. But I'm happy with the video. And then, you know, the reaction on stream, I recorded the chat with my phone.
Yeah,
since the
just
Twitch
blowing up.
chat goes away. Yeah, it just blew up.
Yeah.
So that is another moment that will live on forever in Echo, I think. In my memory, at least.
Were you involved with any of the LAN, like, preparation before or after the announcement at all? Like, were you involved?
Yeah, I was pretty involved before, because it was originally going to be at the Colorado Convention Center, right?
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about that a whole lot, but the main thing was that they charged a lot of money for internet, so we had to move it. And it's like I could say the number. It was insane. It's like you would never guess how much they were going to charge for like 8 megabits of internet.
Well, convention centers are notorious for having terrible internet.
Yeah, I know.
So
it was our fault for not looking into that before announcing it. But I mean, we moved to the McNichol Civic Center. I mean, you were there. It was a pretty good venue. Like it worked. It wasn't perfect. There's definitely better venues available, but I mean, not in that area at that time. But
where did it fall short? I thought the size was perfect for the size of people that turned up.
Yeah, the size was good. The main thing was time. Like, I'm sure you might, we managed, but you might have noticed, like, on the Echo day, like, we had to start late because we didn't have time. Well, like, they didn't let us in early. Like, when they let us in, it was for the time that we paid for. Like, we couldn't come in early and set up. So that's why Saturday was so short. Like, we needed our 5 hours to set up, which was way shorter. Like, we needed a lot more time than that to set up. I guess, are we just talking about LAN? I can go into LAN now.
Yeah, let's do LAN.
Okay.
Well, you're talking about the venue, but
right, the venue.
I thought you were going to say about the late start because of technical issues. Because every LAN, I've been to 5 LANs. Like one, literally, like I got back yesterday.
The technical issues on that one. Oh, you went to a LAN yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw your videos. Right. That was was that in like Rome? I heard that was in Rome.
It was Rome, right? Yeah.
Interesting. Oh yeah, I didn't hear anything about that until you posted your videos.
It was really like last minute. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. So the internet issues were not our fault. We were on a city network line, and I think what I heard was the city saw unusual network traffic. Like that line doesn't get as much traffic as it usually gets, so they shut it down. So we had to like run a network cable to like a different floor. Like it shouldn't have been a problem. And they actually gave us extra time in the venue because of that, because they wasted our time doing that. It didn't matter because the after party was at a set time and like the rental company was coming to get stuff at that time anyway. So we couldn't actually extend anything. But I mean, it was a good buffer zone for like teardown time.
Yeah.
And I guess it was a nice gesture. It would have been nice if they didn't shut our internet down, but oh well. That wasn't a huge problem with the venue. The main problem was that we couldn't get in early to test things. If we were in early to test things, we would have been able to fix that issue earlier. But we were there like an hour before you guys got there. Unless you came in with the setup crew, I don't remember.
I did, yeah. I turned up early on the first day.
Yeah. So you know how early we got in. It wasn't terribly early. I mean, it might have felt early because it was kind of a lot of time. It was like 5 hours, but
I felt like we went really quick with the setup. I was one of the volunteers that just kind of turned up. And
we went as quick as we could, but there was some. I'm not going to talk about it because we might. I mean, if there's ever a future LAN, like it'd be cool to implement these things and not spoil them. But there was some stuff we paid to have and didn't have time to set up. It would have been cooler. Like if we had more time, the show would have been way cooler.
Is this technical things like lights,
just
cameras,
technical stuff? Yeah, like lights and stuff. But I mean, another thing was we had to put a whole bunch of effort into getting that stage and those lights and that sound system. Like we had to figure that all out. And a good venue would have already had a stage, a light, and sound system.
Yeah.
Like I think the one you guys were at in
Southampton. So that was a music venue. So that was actually built for
like
shows.
a music venue is where you should go for something like this. Like that was a great choice. So if we would have been at a music venue, I think it would have been better. But I'm happy with how it turned out. Like everyone liked the lineup, went great. But I mean, I was involved with the planning before the announcement a little bit. I don't remember how much. And then after the announcement, I kind of planned out that whole space. Like it was me and Sphinx were kind of in charge of planning out the layout. And then there were like the sponsor booths and stuff that Nightfire and them worked out. It was a whole team effort.
Had you been to a LAN before?
Yeah, in last July, about probably like, hold on, what's the date? A year ago from like a couple days from now, I went to the Redshift Contender Series 2 in Pittsburgh. Yeah. That was the only other LAN I went to. I was going to go to one of the NEPA ones, but Spirit Airlines they didn't give me a ticket when I bought a ticket. So that was the whole thing. They're a horrible US budget airline. Yeah, like they're the big meme for like, oh, I'm flying Spirit Airlines, and then they show like the plane crashing, and it's like it's a joke how cheap they are. But like I went in and I bought a ticket, and it turned out like sorry, that didn't process, and now the tickets are sold out. Like they didn't charge me for it, but like I didn't get a ticket in time, which is fine. Like I'm fine with not going to the NEPA lands. I'm glad I went to Pittsburgh instead, because I probably wouldn't have gone to Pittsburgh if I went to NEPA.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, I had enough LAN experience. I did some production work at Pittsburgh. Like I set up this whole like roaming camera system. Like I brought my own camera and like a laptop, and we set up like a mobile system, and that was cool.
Mobile system in terms of what, just to walk around the venue?
Yeah, it was just being able to walk around with like an actually nice camera, because I own a pretty nice camera that I brought. So a lot of just like the community footage that Lulz put together in his end video, which I'm sure we'll talk about, a lot of that was from my camera at the Pittsburgh LAN. So that was where my production experience at LAN. And then I also work a decent amount of like just live events production for like my school. I do a lot of like sports stuff.
Yeah, I saw some videos.
I saw the baseball experience. Yeah, baseball. So I'm not like inexperienced with live production. Like I don't have professional experience, but I've done enough live production to make up for it. And then Sphinx has a whole bunch of professional experience doing that thing. Like that was his show, honestly. Like he put together a lot of that. He came up with the technical solutions for it, because he's worked in the industry and he knows his stuff. So without him, that event would have been very different.
What would you do different if you say there was one happening this time next year? There happened to be like another game that you're interested in doing the production for. How would you manage it different? So it sounds like you'd go for a music venue instead.
Yeah, the biggest thing would be doing a different venue. It would be a venue that gives us more time to set up. Like it would be, we would get Friday probably. We would get the Friday before to set up everything and extensively test it. Because it showed a little bit on stream at the Denver LAN, but once I got the thing set up, it was go time. Like I didn't get to run through the package once in that area. Like we set up the stream and we hit go live and hoped that it all worked, and it didn't all work, but it worked enough that we were able to troubleshoot some of it live. But if we could have been in Friday and set up our whole technical stuff, had time to set up our extra things, and also test through it all, then that would have made a huge difference. It would have made everyone a whole lot less stressed out too, because that Saturday was incredibly stressful for some of us. And then a music venue with a proper stage, a proper lighting system. Ideally some like auditorium style seating would be cool, but obviously we need some of that space for like the booths and stuff. But I mean, there's definitely, it could have gone better, but I think everyone's happy with how that event went.
100%. It was the biggest LAN as well, right? In terms of attendance?
Yeah, I think it was. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but it was a lot. Like we packed that space.
I've been telling everyone 300 people. Does that sound
I think
about
that's
right?
about right. Yeah, about 300, which is insane.
It looked great. If you look at the footage of the finals, well, I've got a vlog that I've been really delayed in uploading.
Oh yeah, but I'm doing one too. I'm doing an after movie but I haven't even started it. Like it's so late right now, but
Yeah, no
like
worries. Let me know if you want like B-roll footage and stuff. I've got loads
Oh
of
yeah,
stuff.
sure.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah,
I'll
that
send
might
stuff
that
over.
might be helpful.
Nice. Okay, I appreciate you've got about 15 minutes left. You said you got to be somewhere. It's quarter past now.
Okay. Yeah, I've got about 15 minutes left. Sure.
Yeah, cool. Well, okay. Well, shutdown. So you said that we had the announcement of VRMLCon at season 6 finals, and then about 3 months later,
Yeah,
we
it
have a
would have
very
been
different kind of announcement.
right. Yeah, we did.
What was your initial
mean,
reaction, and
My
where are you
initial
at now?
reaction was probably the same as everyone else's. Like, I mean, I've put a lot of my time into this game, and
Yeah.
I'd never. I mean, I know some people kind of saw it coming. Like they saw that the company wasn't in a great spot, which I probably should have seen. But I mean, yeah, it was. I'm not sure how much I can say about that. I found out about it a little bit early because of some VRML connections. That was honestly the hardest part, was having that like week or so that I knew about it and I wasn't able to say anything about it. And I saw everyone else blissfully unaware that the whole thing was going to be ending soon.
Retip said it had the same experience. He said the same thing. He said it's like you're in a doomsday film. You know the world's ending and no one else knows.
Yeah.
And you've got to like play along.
Right. And I know because they told us basically, like they told a couple of the higher up pyramid people. They told us what was happening. They didn't tell us why it was happening. Like they honestly still haven't told us why. Like their answer for it being small is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. And they told us when the actual announcement would go out. So we had time to kind of prepare the whole like VRML server and everything for, the uproar that would happen.
Yeah.
So it was like a Tuesday, right? I think it was a Tuesday. Yeah. I skipped some of my classes to go, like I've got a place in my school that I'm lucky to have kind of like a private, like audio recording studio. That's kind of just my own space at the school, which I'm very grateful for. So I just kind of sat in there and watched like Gilligan's live stream. And, it was a very sad day.
Did Gilligan know? Did he know ahead of time?
I don't believe he knew.
Because he was very quick in getting that petition up.
Yeah, he was. But yeah, I've been fortunate in my life to not have a whole lot of like terrible tragedies or anything. Like I know compared to like something like a family member dying, saying a game shutting down is not even close. But I mean, Echo shutting down was like it's a big loss. Like it was a very sad day, and I'm sure we can all relate to that.
And where are you now? Like way closer to the end now. We've got about 2 weeks at time of recording this.
In my mind, it's already gone.
Right.
Like to me, like my mindset was, I'm gonna put all my effort into VRMLCon, and once VRMLCon's done, that's when Echo's done.
And having VRMLCon, has that helped with like the closure?
Oh yeah, it's helped so much. Like without VRMLCon, I don't know what I would have done. Because for me, VRMLCon was a very good opportunity to. I mean, it was our chance to say goodbye to the game. Like we were able to give it a big send off.
Yeah.
And it was a thing that I had to work towards. Like if it would have just been, oh, Echo shutting down, and also there's nothing else in VRML. Like I'm sure we would have put a lot more effort into the season 7 finals. Like we probably would have done the whole Echo Chamber stuff for that and made that into a big show. Instead, we focused our efforts on LAN because that was like 2 weeks later. Like we weren't able to focus on both things. But yeah, no, VRMLCon, I'm very happy with that as an end to Echo, in my opinion. Like I could get on and try to play like pubs or something, but that's not super important to me. Like I'm happy. Well, I mean, obviously I'm not happy that it's ending, but I'm content with the spot that we left it at.
So looking forward, you're thinking about getting a business degree and going down that route.
Yeah.
What do you have any plans in terms of production? Is there anything like you want to stick around with VRML for?
Right.
Or do you just want to take a break?
VRML is going to continue. Like I'm still working with VRML. Like me and Offbeat, mostly Offbeat, but like we ported like our production package, the one that Sphinx initially made and I designed, and then Offbeat kind of has adopted it, and he's been working on porting it to all the other games. So like that package we used for Blaston and Ultimex, we're now using it for Breachers, which is the new big league. I don't like Breachers very much. Like it's not my kind of game. It's just another like shooter, like Rainbow. It's kind of Rainbow Sixy, I think. But I mean, it's cool. That's where people are right now. But we ported it to that. We've ported it to soon to be Onward and Pavlov, I think. But that's where a lot of my work's been. And then some other, I mean, I haven't done a whole lot beyond that, but there's going to be some stuff to work on with VRML. But I mean, beyond that, I'd like to stay in esports. I'd be fine if I didn't stay in esports, because I know I can't be super picky starting out, but I think I've got the experience to make a decent game for myself in some level of esports. It definitely doesn't have to be VR. Like I'd be happy to go into like work for some college doing like their Rocket League tournaments or something. But I mean, yeah, I definitely plan to stay in production, probably something similar to this, either doing live events like the LAN or just like the marketing or live stream or something. Maybe designing the packages like I've done with VRML. But I mean, there's plenty of production left to do. So,
is there anything particular about VR that kept you at Echo for so long, or is it that there was a niche that you found a position in?
Maybe not the answer that people like, but not really. Like I don't care too much that it's VR. Like Echo being in VR was a big thing. Like I think, like that was really unique. The whole us being able to be right here and talking to each other, basically face to face when you're, 12-hour flight away from me is crazy. Like that's not something you get out of flat screen. But I haven't seen any other VR games capture what Echo has. I mean, you can kind of be in the same spot. Like there's the VR chat and stuff, but that doesn't have the sport aspect. And all the other sports-y games, or like the ones that are being played competitively, I'd rather just go work on Rocket League, because in terms of like the gameplay, even though it's not VR, it's still more interesting than like Breachers, in my opinion.
So why esports then?
Well, I mean, I've done a decent amount of work with, IRL sports, but the whole, I guess esports, there's a lot more opportunity for you to just do everything yourself. Like working in a team is cool. Like I love the Reverb team. Like I still kind of consider that doing everything ourselves. Like we would all do the creation work, and then running it would be like me and Sphinx would be running it. But with real sports, you have like your one person doing the video switching, you have one person doing the graphics, you have one person like overseeing, and then you have to have a whole bunch of like camera people just actually running real cameras, which you also have to go set up real cameras. And then also manually run your scoreboards because you don't have API in real sports. And what I like with doing the broadcast is that I can just kind of do the whole broadcast.
The automation.
So that's I guess why esports appeals to me. And then also I'm not a huge fan of real sports is the other thing. Like I like Echo as a game. Like who doesn't? And then I like some of the other esports like Rocket League, just for their gameplay and stuff like that. Like I suck at Rocket League, but I like watching it. It's in my opinion the most interesting esport to watch, other than Echo. But
do you play any other games?
In
VR,
well,
particularly,
in
also
VR, I kind of just mess around in VR sometimes. Like I'll hop on like Bone Lab or Boneworks and just kind of screw around a little bit. But beyond that, not a whole lot these days. I'm sure when another Axioms game comes out, I'll be playing that. Like all of us will be, assuming it's good, but I have no doubt that it will be.
But you'll be playing it with the idea of thinking about production, I assume.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's your home.
Like, I mean, I would like to continue what I'm doing with Echo on Axioms game. Like, if it's with VRML or like directly with another Axiom or somebody new.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be cool if VRML stayed for Axioms game, but yeah, doing the production stuff, and then I'll play it for a while because I think it's important to know the game to be able to do the production. Like we've been working on the Onward stuff, and like we've had to talk to all the Onward people to be like, oh, can we like remove this from the scoreboard? Or can we like, what should we add? Because me and Offbeat don't know those games, so it's a little harder to understand what's needed. If you're a fan of the game, it's a lot easier to get inspired and have good ideas.
I appreciate we're coming towards the end, but a quick one on that. So these other games, because for a lot of people, a lot of Echo players, that is, they, with Echo going, they're now looking for other games, and they're finding other games, for example, Breaches.
Yeah.
And they're having the same opinion as you. It's like, it's good, it's all right, but I'm just kind of playing it because Echo's gone. Do you feel the same when you're looking at these other games like Onward?
Yeah, with the other VR games, I definitely feel that way. Like, it's surprising how few games, or how Echo is the only game that's managed to, like, I don't think it takes much to do what Echo does. Like, I was telling this to, I'm blanking on the name, I don't remember who I was talking to, but at the after party in Denver, I was talking to one of the Axiom devs, former Echo dev, about, what the game needs. And for me, what the game needs is, it needs to be mainly, you need to focus on social a lot. Like the fact that this game has a lobby is what sets it apart from a lot of these other games. Like Ultimex was kind of cool. Like that's probably the closest one to, like the gameplay was fine. Like you would go into arena, you'd do kind of a somewhat unique VR gameplay. Yeah. But there was no social aspect at all. Like they didn't have a lobby. You could kind of party chat with like your teammate and then sometimes the other team, I think, but it's so hard to build a community when there's not some place you can just go and hang out in. Like the game is the game in those games, but in Echo, you can just come into the arena and do something like this, where we just sit here and talk for an hour. Yeah. And other games, they don't let you do that. And I don't think that's hard to, I mean, I'm not a game developer. I'm not going to complain about something I have no idea about. But I know running like a whole lobby it's probably a lot of resources, but it doesn't seem like anyone else has even tried. Like, you can look at the success of Echo and see, okay, the gameplay is pretty cool. It's the whole zero gravity. I guess that would boil down to being a VR unique movement style. So that's a big part of it. You need some sort of VR, something that makes it unique to VR. You need the social aspect. And honestly, like that's about it. Like Echo, the game itself definitely isn't perfect. Like, we can all list a whole bunch of improvements that could be made to the game itself, but the fact that it has a community and is unique is what makes us like Echo, which is what I was telling them. It's like, you don't need to do a lot to please these people, I think. Like, you need just a way that they can hang out with their friends in a game that's at least mildly fun. That's all we want.
You make it sound very simple.
Yeah. I mean, I know building a game it's a lot to build a game. Yeah. But
no, I like it.
We'd be fine with a lot. Yeah.
I've got another question. I've got more like a point to make, that when we started this interview, you were like, oh, I haven't got much to say. I don't know what I'm going to say. You've pretty much been speaking the whole time. I've been interrupting you to ask the next question.
I thought that might happen.
Well, so to follow that, we were talking about your early days of getting on the controlling the cameras after you built those packages, and you tried casting and you said it wasn't for you. You didn't enjoy it. Is it like an uncomfortability with speaking in front of people? Is it a public speaking thing, or is it you just don't enjoy it?
It might have been at the beginning. Casting still kind of stresses me out. I know it's not a whole lot different than what we're doing here. It's like, oh, you're not actually looking at people. It's still just like an audience. Yeah. But I mean, I still get the feeling that like casting is like, oh, it's a big deal. You got to do perfect. And there's also a lot of, if you have dead air, then it's awkward. And like, I was not very good at filling dead air. Right. But like something like this is fine. I can have conversations.
Yeah. And how did you feel at VR Milcom when you're on the stage at the very end when they were doing winner speeches?
Oh, yeah.
How was that?
I didn't like that very much. More from like a producer standpoint, I didn't feel like it fit the show running very well. Right. Like maybe doing that, if we would have had something at the end, maybe if I would have waited till like when Palador was giving his ending speech, and I guess one minor point of running that show is we would have spent a little more time doing that, where we'd like, Palador gave his end. It wasn't, we should have thrown it back to the caster's desk and had the casters say a few more things. And then maybe I could have come up there then and did my little thing. But we ended up going straight to that video that Lulz made, which, by the way, I mean, that was a secret that we kept from everyone, including the casters. Not a single person knew that, except me and Lulz and Sphinx and like the production, the people who built the show. Which the video, I think it was the perfect end. Like,
I don't know what you're talking about. I thought it was a great transition. We went from like the players, we had Palador, Lemon spoke as well, right?
Yeah, Lemon spoke. That was a huge thing. I loved that. That was great.
Yeah, that was great having, well, he said it himself, having the first champions like crowning, like awarding the...
I think that was Lemming's idea too. I think he approached us and said, hey, I want to do this, which is great. Like that was the perfect end. And then the video, Link 1, I had Link 1 make a... I mean, I really wish we could have used it a little more. And I think I'm going to try to use it in my like movie that I make about the little after movie about the event. But he made a cover of his credits music, because he made that credits music that we've used forever, basically. Okay. He made like a sad, emotional, kind of like epic cover of it, and it's so incredibly good. It's on his SoundCloud, I think, if you want to listen to it. It's called like, I think it's Multiplayer Shutdown is the name, but it's a really good song. I listened to it like so many times when he sent it to me.
It's public. Has this been like pushed by VRML? Has it like been released? And
the song, I don't think it has. Maybe it should be. That's probably something we should do. I think when I keep talking about this edit that I'm going to make this after movie, but I don't know if I'll actually get around to it. I hope I do.
Oh, of course.
But when we do,
I'm sure you will.
We'll try to, I guess, announce that, and when we do that, we'll announce Link 1's song too, because he definitely deserves that. Because I mean, he's also done a lot of work. He made the original credits music, and he's made this cover of it. It's iconic, and he just gave it to us for free. Like I just asked him, I was like, hey, this is a cool idea. What if we do an emotional cover of the song? And he's like, heck yeah, I like that. And he just did it in like a couple days, and it's like this amazing song. It's great. He definitely deserves more attention from that.
Cool. Well, I hope that edit gets made soon, and we can promote that the work that he did there. But just going back to the sequence at the end of the VRMLCon, I thought that was perfect. I thought bringing you up, having your like moment, like the spotlight on the man that's always behind the camera, and then to immediately transition into that video, I thought it was great. Yeah,
it was good. I do really wish Sphinx could have been there, because that's another thing is busy man. He had to leave. He flew in Friday night, which originally he was going to fly in Saturday morning. He flew in Friday night. And then flew out Saturday night, like right after, I think late at night, but he wasn't able to stay for the Echo Day at all. Like, he put so much work into this stuff, and then he wasn't even able to see it. It was very sad. And I mean, having him at the end to give some words would have been great.
Yeah.
But I mean, he had to go work another production job, because like I said, he's in the actual production industry.
Right.
So, and I think he had fun at his job he worked too. So he's okay with it.
Did you get any sleep on a Friday night?
I got about an hour of sleep. 30 minutes of sleep maybe on Friday night, which that was a little oversight from us. We probably could have had the work done a little sooner, but...
So I just want to say that was epic. So we came up, you had like the suite on the top floor of the hotel. A couple rooms down the road, it was the party room with Cool Whip and everyone.
Yep. Oh, I think it was 2 rooms over. Like they were right there. Like we could hear. That was a great part of the LAN.
That was so cool.
Yeah,
but I can't remember why was I up there. I was up there and I went into the production room, the suite, and I felt like we were in 2005, like Mark Zuckerberg on his laptop. It was that vibe of like hotel room, like laptops out all plugged in, and you guys were like, leave us alone, we're doing the package.
Yeah. Oh, was that later? Was that later in the night after like all the players had done their stuff
when you were
already?
Kicking us out? Yeah, we did the profiles. We were doing the headshots of all the players. Well, you were just finishing that, and then we were doing we were cutting off Beat's hair, and then everyone was saying,
"Oh right, man, I've forgotten about some of this stuff." That was definitely one of the better parts of the event. Like the event was great too, but then also everyone loves the community aspect of LANs. That's like the best part. Yeah. I'm so happy. I think that room that I was in, I believe it was the best room in the hotel. Like it was the corner suite on the top floor. Yeah. Like you can't get much better than that.
It was. So it was a small hotel. All the rooms were quite small, but apart from that one, and that one was like, it was.
Well, because like the original plan with VRML, like we got an extra room that we were planning on using for that, so I didn't have to use my room because that was my personal room. Like me and my family stayed in that room, and Sphinx too, because he didn't sleep Friday night either. So his plan originally was to stay in that extra room we had, but then we didn't do any sleeping, so he didn't. But I mean, we used that extra room for some storage, but my room ended up becoming. The photo studio was the big part of it. Like we took all the portraits of the players, which I'm very happy we did. Because I don't know if it's been announced, but vrmlcon.com is now, I've revamped it to be kind of a recap page. It's got some like stuff like, oh, these are the champions, but it shows like the pictures of the champions and stuff.
Okay.
And and we were able to show like the rosters on stream, which was cool, but yeah, it was a great event. Like I could not be happier with that event.
Awesome. I appreciate the time and that we're coming towards the end of it now, so I'll wrap this up for you. But I've got one more question. Chip or no chip?
I don't know what that means.
No one ever does. So, chip or no chip is a question that I ask all the guests at the end, which is about Elon Musk's Neuralink, which is, are you willing to put your head, or like a binary answer, yes or no?
You're asking this at the end when it's definitely a longer conversation to be had. My answer is yes. Maybe not Elon Musk specifically, but I'm not opposed to neural implants now.
How come?
Because I guess I probably could see a way that they're dangerous, but I also think they'd be really cool if they work. I probably wouldn't get like the V1 of it, but maybe a few generations down when there's like regulations and stuff, and people have proven that they don't blow up your head. Then being able to do like, I don't know, full dive VR, or even just like, I can browse the internet in my brain and just get instant answers to everything. That'd be pretty cool.
I thought you said it'd be a long answer. That was a pretty straightforward, rational.
Well, I mean, I could go longer than that if we wanted to, but that's the yes or no plus answer, I guess.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll wrap it up then. Is there anything else that you want to say on this Wonder Team, man? Any other shout-outs you want to make, or any other like things you want to say on record?
I mean,
as we come to the end here.
Shout out to, Palador. He got me into all this. Yep. Shout out to the entire creator team, Sphinx specifically. Like, he's been a huge influence on me, like I said. And then, all of VRML for giving me the opportunity to work on that LAN. Like, that's going to be a big deal, I think, in my career, being able to present that as something I've done. So that would be Nightfire, I guess. Thank you to him for the opportunity and doing everything he did, and making that event happen logistically. Yeah,
it's a big deal for everyone else, and you've contributed massively. You've given Echo the send-off that it really needed, and everyone's incredibly grateful. Wonder Team.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. Fist bump. We'll see you out.
For sure. Thank you for the interview as well.